heard laws in the Philippines. You can get away with murder in the Philippines if you murder your spouse caught in the act of doing something very naughty with his or her paramour. So is it true, attorney, that you will not go to jail if you caught them having sex?
To marry the
criminal charges if he marries the victim. So that means he's forgiven.
Well, that actually is in the books, unfortunately. Fortunately, it is not in the books. The books actually say that the victim who subsequently marries the rapist, let's say that, it's as if the victim have forgiven the rapist.
So it has to be right there and then. You didn't have enough time to think. You were like, it's the time of passion because you saw them doing the thing.
if you then
Just imagine it, right? If you have a wife and then the wife did it with a paramour, so you were still at the height of your anger and you did it, right? So that can be a justification under Article 247 of the Revised Penal Code.
So if you're not going to jail, what are they gonna do with you?
What is the punishment? It's not that you don't have a punishment, but well, you may not be criminally liable, but you can actually be civilly liable in that case, and you can be liable for serious physical injuries, but there will be criminal liabilities and civil liabilities, but you may not be charged for murder.
That really sounds so familiar because just recently I was watching this series about O.J. Simpson, and he was able to get away with the criminal charges for murdering his ex-wife and the alleged boyfriend. But both of the victims' family were able to sue him civilly, and they won. So the Filipino family can do the same thing.
Yes, that's correct. You may not be criminally liable, but you can be liable civilly.
Okay, and you can ask for damages.
Yes, absolutely. You can always ask for damages.
That's why, folks, I'm keep on telling you guys to just stay away from married Filipinas, because what if the husband catches you guys doing the hanky-panky? Then you're not gonna be this Filipina and the Filipino husband. They're separated, but they're not annulled. They're still legally married. Okay, they haven't seen each other for 5 years, and yet they're still legally married. And what if the Filipina is having sex with another person, and then can the husband still do the same thing? Can he still kill them both? Because legally they're still married. Can he use that defense?
Even if you have separated for like 5 years, but it was not a legal separation, you are actually still, in the eyes of the law, you're still legally married. And yes, you can still invoke that defense under this weird law that we have been discussing.
Still use that as defense when he murders you both. For example,
It's a very common among that the husband may be an OFW and has been living in the foreign country for a period of years, and then when he came back to the Philippines, caught on the act the wife was doing, sexual intercourse with another person, that can still be counted as Article 247, which is, let me say, legally killing somebody.
Yeah.
still legally married. But what about, you mentioned, attorney, that legally separated. What if I'm legally separated from my husband, but we're still married?
Because separation is actually quite weird because you're still married, and in the eyes of the law, you're still married, but you are actually allowed to live separately. So that's legal separation. Technically, you're allowed to do things separately. You're allowed to have separate custody of the children. You can live in separate houses. But technically, in the eyes of the law, you're still a married couple, and you're not. You can date, but you cannot actually marry another person if you are only legally separated. Okay.
Just to make sure that she is not married, to protect yourself.
Yes, always protect yourself. You're in a foreign country, so you may not be familiar with the laws. So it's always better to be protected with, ask for documents. You can ask the government offices for verification of, the Filipinas data, just to be sure that he or she is single.
And also of legal age.
And of legal age, yeah, because Filipinas, they look younger, so you'll be able to distinguish which is a Filipino is of legal age and which one is still a minor. So you can't actually just date and do things with a minor. That can be a big crime in the Philippines.
But what if the foreigner is duped? She said, I'm 18, but she's not really 18. Can the foreigner say, I didn't know. I know nothing about her age. Can it be used as a defense? Or the judge would say, you should have known better. Ask for...
Though, because we have a legal principle, it's ignorance of the law excuses no one. Ignorance of some age is not really offense. So if the Filipino would tell you, I'm 21, I'm already 30, but when in reality the Filipino is just 16, for example, then that may not be a good legal defense, that you did not know the real age of the Filipina. So there are many ways of knowing. So just be protected, just be sure about the age.
What about rape? So a rapist can get away with criminal charges if he marries the victim. So that means he's forgiven.
well that
Because I think this is kind of very, very old. Because before, if your virginity is no longer there, they're kind of forced.
In the books actually say that the victim who subsequently marries the rapist, let's say that, it's as if the victim have forgiven the rapist. Yeah.
Criminal charges if he marries the victim. So that means he's forgiven.
Well, Yeah, unfortunately, it is in the books. The books actually say that the victim who subsequently marries the rapist, let's say that, it's as if the victim have forgiven the rapist.
Yeah, because I think this is kind of very, very old. Because before, if your virginity is no longer there, they're kind of forced to marry the rapist just to preserve the honor of the family. So that's what I heard. Way, way
If I'm
first.
It happens in certain indigenous tribes in the Philippines where you have to marry that person to preserve the dignity of your tribe. So you would be free from the shame. It's actually almost like pardoning. So